Imagine a place that tells a story spanning centuries, where culture and nature intertwine to create something truly extraordinary. That's the beauty of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. I'm Abigail, and this is Global Treasures, the podcast that covers the history, travel tips, and legends surrounding one of the 1,223 World Heritage Sites each episode. These places have been identified as having universal cultural or natural significance that is so exceptional that it transcends national boundaries and is of importance to present and future generations. Welcome to Season 2, where we'll explore the 45 sites that UNESCO added in 1979 together. Thank you for listening to the Global Treasures podcast. We appreciate all of your support, and you can continue to support us by subscribing at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or any major platform. You can also follow us on TikTok, Clapper, and Facebook. And most importantly, you can support us by booking your trips through the affiliate links in the show notes. This is at no extra cost to you. The story of Versailles begins uneventfully in a forest outside of Paris, France. Monarch King Louis XIII is hunting, his usual pastime. In 1623, he had a small hunting lodge built on the site, meant to be a retreat away from the hustle and bustle and grand personality that is Paris. But this simple lodge would be transformed into something momentous. His son, Louis XIV, had visions of grandeur, visions that one day Versailles would and could be the most magnificent palace in Europe. When Louis ascended to the throne, he saw Versailles as more than just a place to live. He saw it as a symbol of his power. In 1661, construction began. Architects Louis Laveau and Jules Hardouin Mansart and painter Charles Lebrun worked to make the king's vision a reality. Over the next 2 decades, this simple lodge evolved into a sprawling palace adorned with gold and gorgeous frescoes. By 1682, Louis moved his court and government there, securing Versailles' place as the center of French political and cultural life. There are so many rooms that could be commented on, but the real masterpiece here is the Hall of Mirrors. Here, sunlight streams through tall, arched windows, reflecting across 357 mirrors that line the opposite wall. It was in this hall where treaties would be signed, and rulers from across Europe would come to be entertained and simultaneously struck with awe by France's splendor. Outside, the expansive gardens stretched for miles in a perfectly symmetrical fashion, with fountains that seemed to defy gravity. Versailles was not just a palace. It was a statement to the entire world. Now, we arrive at the part of the story many of us know. As Versailles prospered, so did the discontent of the French people. By the time Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette came to power in the late 18th century, revolution was fermenting. See, people no longer saw Versailles as a symbol of power, but more as a symbol of excess and apathy towards the starving citizens of the country. In 1789, an angry mob stormed the palace, forcing out its king and queen. Once they were put to death, the monarchy fell, and Versailles was abandoned, with its priceless treasures looted, its halls left in pure silence. For years, Versailles remained empty most of the time. Under Napoleon Bonaparte, it was used for state functions. But it wasn't until King Louis Philippe came to power in 1837 that Versailles regained a second life. He transformed it into a museum, dedicating it to the glories of France. The palace became a testament to the country's history, rather than just a relic of an unloved monarchy. But Versailles still had a role to play in world history. In 1919, in the aftermath of World War I, world leaders gathered in the Hall of Mirrors. It's here that the Treaty of Versailles was signed, officially ending the war and reshaping the modern world as we knew it. Restoration efforts in the 1920s were surprisingly led by an American philanthropist whose name may ring familiar, John D. Rockefeller Jr. He donated over $2 million towards the effort. The next pivotal point moves us to 1978. A terrorist bombing left a host of damage. However, staff were determined to restore the palace to the state it was in when the royal family left in 1789. They've gone as far as to repurchase much of the original furniture from private owners, and you'll see it if you tour the palace. Skipping ahead to 1979, Versailles was recognized by UNESCO and officially designated as a World Heritage Site. This helps ensure that its story, one of revolution and durability, lives on. Today, it welcomes millions of visitors who walk down the same marble halls that once echoed with the footsteps of our arguably most quotable queen. Let them eat cake, as she once supposedly said. Transforming from a hunting lodge to a palace, a symbol of French ambition, Versailles remains a timeless testament to cultural and artistic evolution. And if you want to visit this beautiful palace, there are many ways to get there. If you're flying in from another country, you'll want to fly into Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. To get to Versailles from the airport, you can take a train or a taxi. It should be about an hour-and-a-half ride. In terms of getting tickets to visit Versailles, you can buy them online ahead of time or at the ticket office the day of. Guided tours are an extra cost on top of tickets. While the primary language spoken throughout France is French, tours are offered in languages such as English and Spanish. I also want to mention that some groups are allowed in for free, so be sure to check the official website in case you fall into one of these demographics. And just a couple other notes here. Security is very stringent at this site, so you will be searched and bags above a certain size will probably not be allowed in. This UNESCO site is also far more accessible than most, which is nice, with lifts being available for those with accessibility needs. During your visit, you can see some of the rooms that I mentioned before. This includes the Hall of Mirrors, the King's Bedchamber, the gardens, the marble courtyard, and more. There's a map online that gives you an idea of what you can see during your visit. The Palace of Versailles has 2,300 rooms, so make sure you bring your walking shoes. While you won't see them all, you'll want to give this site a few hours or even a half day because there is a lot to see. If you're a believer in the supernatural, this site will be of interest to you because many claim that it's haunted, and given its history, it makes sense. In 1901, two women claim to have seen the ghost of Marie Antoinette in the gardens of the Petit Trianon, while others have claimed to see her ghost in the concierge, which is where she was imprisoned before her untimely death. Surprisingly, they don't offer ghost tours here, and I couldn't find any offered in other parts of Versailles either. While you're in the area, there are plenty of other noteworthy places to visit. The Place du Marché Notre-Dame is a market with food, flowers, and so much more. You can make a picnic out of the food you pick up from there. Just make sure you bring cash, as some vendors don't accept credit card as a form of payment. I also want to mention that many people assume the currency is the franc, but it's actually the euro. They switched to using the euro in 1999. In terms of where to stay, homestay options will likely be your most affordable bet. There are many sites where you can find them. There are also bed and breakfasts and hotels from 2-star ranked to 5-star hotels that are thousands of dollars a night. So no matter what your budget is, you'll find something. Now, on to one of the questions I'm asked most frequently regarding any site. What's the best time of day or year to visit? Visiting midweek will mean smaller crowds. Also, I should note, you'll want to check the website because the palace isn't open for tours every day of the week. Midsummer is going to be busier than spring or fall, as with most sites. And this site gets around 10 million visitors each year, arguably one of the most popular and again busiest in France. In terms of the weather, if you visit in the winter, know that it gets quite cold, so bundle up. And even in the midsummer, the average temperature is in the high 60 degrees Fahrenheit or in the low 70s, again, degrees Fahrenheit. October receives the most rain. Now, let's briefly talk about the food. It's really hard to pinpoint one thing worth trying in France because French cuisine is highly regarded, generally speaking. So I'll point to one of the items they sell on site, macaron. This is a French cookie that I would argue is a must-try. Made with almond flour, it's very light and not too sweet, while still being decadent. They also look like a work of art, coming in a variety of pastel colors and fruity flavors like strawberry or raspberry. And these cookies are directly connected with Versailles, as this was one of Marie Antoinette's favorite desserts. She was known to nibble on them as she got dressed. So whether you love to travel to indulge in the food or other aspects of another country's culture, Versailles is a perfect example of how historical spaces can remain vibrant and relevant in our modern world. Our next episode will bring us to Persepolis, an iconic Iranian cultural heritage site that dates back to 515 BC. Join us as we explore the history, legends, and travel tips for visiting this former royal residence. Until then, keep exploring, keep wondering, and keep treasuring the remarkable diversity of our world's heritage.